Hello there, sorry from 17 once again. This is my Ys VIII Inferno difficulty video walkthrough. We're going into the Sanctuary Crypt? I don't know what happened to my tongue just then. Mutiny. No, the Sanctuary Crypt, the awakened blue armoured dragon Grazios. That's the boss's name that we're coming up against. And the Ang attackers, the enemies that are coming up just now, are a really, really good enemy to learn because they only have, I think, 2 attacks. They have a rush attack that's like a joust, and then they have 2 slashes what they do up close. If you always engage these monsters at a distance, you'll have a really fun time because it's an easy flash guard, and then you can proceed to destroy them with the damage boost that you get. And the reason I say that it's good to learn them is pretty much the next dungeon coming up when we get back to Adol is going to feature the exact same enemy type. So if you know how to fight them now, you'll just be able to body them, and they drop a decent amount of resources. And there's only 2 other variants. There's an earring that fires lasers at you, and then there's a big fella that spins around. But right in here is an example of a puzzle. There are these like braziers things, these flaming pedestals that you have to put out by attacking them. I didn't attack the one across there because I thought just killing the bird was enough. I'd forgotten apparently that piece of information. And then what happens is these phoenix feathers, or these phoenix birds, sorry, will fly from that central flaming like pulpit thing, and then they will go and light those pedestals again, and you need both of them to be extinguished to open the doorway. So do so and then push forward. And this is the dungeon that I mentioned in the previous video that has a bunch of optional stuff in it. And this is kind of an example of what you'll do. You move through this area, you kill standard enemies, you do a little bit of mild interaction with puzzles, and then you fight a boss that looks a little bit like these standard enemies. I really do love what they did to Flashguard in this game. I notice a lot of people think that the game is easy because of it, and I do think that the game is easier because of it. I don't think it's by any means easy. I once again will reiterate that if you think this game is easy because you have beaten it on the harder difficulties and didn't have too much trouble compared to the older games, I think it's more so to do with the fact that not only are you very experienced and skilled at the game, but you're also using tools that didn't exist in the previous games that make the game much more satisfying and easier to play. Does it mean that it's easier overall? Not really. It just means that if you use the tools that the game gives you, you can have an easier time. Because what you need to bear in mind, guys, is up until Ys VII, there was no guarding, really. There was a couple of instances of blocking in the game, in the previous ones. I think maybe in the Chronicles of both Ys I and II. I think, did Ark of Napishtim have a little bit of blocking that you could perhaps do? But it was not the same caliber that they introduced into this. In this game, the blocking is much more advantageous, much more rewarding as well. And then they've just compounded on that to make a system that, if you have good timing, you can do an incredible amount of damage. You can really destroy the game, and I think that that's how games should be. There are people that will play this game and never see the same kind of success that you yourself will see because your timing is better than them, and you're willing to, learn the patterns and understand the systems and really do incredible things. And that's kind of what video games are all about. The skill ceiling is accessible enough that any player can pick the controls up and have a good time, but if you're looking to really learn the game, really understand what's happening, and get good, as the internet loves to prescribe, then you can. And when you do, the rewards are immense. Really, really high rewards in this game. And it really makes me sad when I play Ys VII because if the guard in that game worked a little bit more similarly to this one, I think the game would be a hell of a lot more fun. As it stands, you take damage when you perfectly guard things, and it just feels dumb and stupid and broken. But one must realise that that was the tentative steps towards the system that exists in this game. Without those early steps, we would have never have got such a polished and satisfying combat system that exists inside of Ys VIII. And I really hope that Ys IX continues to build on it, and even if they change it, I don't think I'd be too bothered. For instance, one of the things I see a lot of people have problems with that makes the guarding and the moving too powerful is the ability to stack it. because once you get a flash move or a flash guard, you then are invincible. It completely takes the risk out of getting the next one, and if you play correctly, you can chain flash guards and invincibility and never really be in any kind of danger, which is a very powerful maneuver to do. If they took away the ability to refresh a guard or a move inside of a move or a guard, I don't think I'd have too much of a problem with that. It doesn't really bother me, because in my mind, doing the parries and timing them and everything, that's the fun part. The risk of being invincible when you do it, and the complete lack of risk when that happens, is not something that I care about too often. But this is Grazios. He is a really aggressive but really fun fight, because all of his moves have got very deliberate telegraphs, and all of them can be guarded pretty effectively. The only thing where things get a little bit hazy is when he starts breathing fire, because any kind of projectile like that in this game is incredibly difficult to judge the depth on. One thing you need to bear in mind here is that you can double jump as Dana, so you can jump over a lot of these crazy hits that you can't quite see, and it's a good idea to do that sometimes, not all the time, but of all this boss's moves that will trip you up, it will be the flame, because it's almost impossible sometimes to tell whether or not it's coming towards you or if it's just about to hit you, and judging the distance is a skill in and of itself. But that was really unfortunate. I missed the entire beginning of my super, and I'm missing out on key damage, but the Icicle Rain does so much that I managed to get quite a few hits on him at the end, and then I ended up coming out of the super into an active hitbox, which was really dangerous, and how it didn't hit me, I couldn't tell you guys. I got very lucky then. And you need a bit of luck sometimes. But towards the end of the fight, he spams this charging shoulder, but the problem with the charging shoulder is it's really easy to block, so you just continually block him, and there's not much you can do. But here he does with the fire nonsense. Luckily enough, if you watch his face, just as his face arcs towards you is pretty much the timing on that guard, and then if he does the punches from up close, these are the easiest thing he's got to use as an attack. But the stun in this game is so pointless, it confuses me to no end. And I think I should really speak about that, because it's probably confusing you. It's one of those things where you think it would be so much more interesting and important than it is, but you almost never need it, because it's so difficult to build up on this difficulty. Unless you're spamming Ricotta, of course. That's a little bit different. But talk to the monolith, get the information, and then here is the sealed door that's going to open as you do more things in Dana's timeline. And you can do a whole host of optional bosses, optional items, and get some really strong gear. There's a piece of gear through those doorways that increases your damage by 1.5, but it reduces your movement. If you're fighting an enemy or a boss where you don't move much and you just stand there parrying, it's a really good item to have. The only problem is, replacing really good accessories with an accessory that's kinda good is a tough choice to make. So compared to 2.5 times skill damage, are you really ever going to wear it? Maybe not. Maybe if it's a boss that you don't spam skills on and you just do normal attacks, that could be pretty cool. But it would be really nice if I could put accessories in other slots, because half the armor is really unnecessary in these games. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.